That's the problem. Very often the students are afraid of writing tests, which is the most important part, and yet they run away from it. No issue. The first thing we would like to talk about the framing of the answers. And obviously your questions will be far more important than what I'm going to deliver. The structure of an answer, because most of the things we have already talked last time. There are three parts of every answer. Hope we all know that. It's introduction. Then we have body parts. And then we have conclusion. Normally, the weightage of the total number of words should be divided roughly like 10%, 80%, and the 10%. These three parts. This should have, like for example, if we have 150 words, so roughly around 15 words should be here. 15 words should be here. And then roughly around 120 words should be devoted. That's a rough idea. There is no hard and fast rule for that, but obviously the introduction should not neither be too long nor it should be too short. That's where we have to learn that how to concise good amount of information within a very short lines or few lines. Right? What should be the content of the introduction? Definition. Let's say, for example, earthquake. Human and society. That is where we are different from the normal writings. Because definition, if you start unless until it is a very unique definition. For example, the topic is not very well known. And then defining it, so entire words limit will be consumed in that. Right? So if you introduce, the first thing is that it's all about past of the topic. Like for example, if you introduce yourself. Like for example, introduce yourself. So everything is about past, right? So when you introduce yourself, when you introduce the topic, it's all about the past of the topic, right? Body parts is the present of the topic, that is the demand of the question, where the subject and predicate comes into play, and you just try to link those subject and predicate. And conclusion is about future of the topic. How do you see the topic in the future? These are the three basic parts. In a nutshell, we'll try to introduce that what should be the crux of the introductory lines, which will reward you a lot and where you can be different from others. Especially in my opinion, introduction and conclusion play the crucial role in fetching marks which is higher than normal. It's not the body parts. Like body parts can give you at the most, let's say 5 out of 10. It can't give you 6 out of 10, even the best of the body parts. But you can take it to 6, even 7, 7.5 out of 10 if the introduction and conclusion is very good. That's where we have talked last time also, where your administrative capability is checked. Let's say discuss the consequences of the earthquake. You can't generate many different points other than your competitors. But when it comes to introduction and conclusion, you can be hugely different. And where you can tell the examiner that, look, I have the administrative capability. Yes, please. Yeah. Let me know. Just you tell me any of the topic. Cycle of erosion. Fine. 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 Exactly. Not necessarily quoting. Quoting someone, again, you are repeating. quoting someone is good in essay because you have huge amount of introductory lines. I'm talking about, that's why I'm saying, where you have good amount of scope to write introduction, let's say in 100 words. So quoting someone doesn't eat out good amount of words. But here if you're quoting, you're just repeating someone. It's not your creativity. It is someone else's creativity. But why I'm comparing it with the essay, because for more than 50 words you can consume in introduction. So let's say 10 words is consumed by introducing in someone else. That's fine, but 40 words are still with you, where you can reflect your own creativity. But in the normal answers, if you are quoting someone, so entire words are consumed from the quotation itself. So where is your creativity? Hope we can differentiate. Let's say cycle of erosion. Now imagine erosion. So erosional activities, like why should we study? That's the fundamental aspect of the introductory lines. Why should we study the topic? If you look at the trend in UPSC, you will understand that what exactly they are demanding from you. Let's say, suppose, it's very clear in general studies. Let's start with polity or Indian Constitution. What is the core topic of Indian Constitution? When we think about Constitution, when we think about polity, what are the core topics of that? Functioning of government, let's say parliament, legislative process, bills, bill making and passage of bills and all. They'll never ask you that. They're asking from where? Fundamental rights. DSP, DPSP, the elections, which are directly related with you as an administrator or as a citizen of this country. Legislative process becomes technical. So despite being the core of the topic, they are not frequently asking from that area. They're choosing the areas where actually you are supposed to be indulging while governing the country and being a part of the system. If you look at economy, which is the core area of economy? Capital market, money market, stock exchange. When you think about economy, these are the topics which comes to your mind as a subject. But they are choosing questions from, last year you see 3 questions from agriculture itself. So they are choosing question agriculture, employment, rural development, urbanization, right? So economy also, if you see, the core area is completely left because they are not interested in searching subjective knowledge from you. They are interested in searching those informations which a normal, well-aware citizens are supposed to have. They will not ask you about the stock exchange and the, let's say, Nifty and Sifty, what is the difference, and Bombay Exchange, how it is doing well, how it is calculated, never. They'll never ask you the capital market and functioning, rarely. Once in a blue moon, just to know and just to tell you that you should have at least a little bit amount of those informations as well. But mostly the questions will be from employment, poverty alleviation, rural development program, agriculture, a little bit of basic idea about population, sex ratios. So that's where you can understand, you can learn that what UPSC is actually searching for you. That means why should we study a topic? Fundamental rights are so fundamental for being a citizen of the country. Right? So that's what they are asking from there. Same is about geography also. But since it is an optional, a little bit deeper concepts are required and you are expected to learn that. Because there are selected areas. The one good thing about optional is that you have good limited number of topics where questions can be framed. Yet you see the recent trend in the questions, they are not asking direct questions. Right? If you see last 10 years questions, 5-6 times you will have questions from plate tectonic. Why? Because if you see plate tectonic, this is a revolutionary idea which has transformed the fundamentals related to the landform evolution. You think about anything, plate tectonic has the answer. Interior of the earth, earthquake, volcanism, right? Let's say continental drift theory, it all is consumed in one topic. So that's become very important. So why should we study plate tectonics? What actually has, how plate tectonic theory has helped us mitigate lots of problems faced by humanity in the past. Look at the delineation of earthquake zones, delineation of volcanic areas. So obviously you have to give that, which will not be there in the book. Like several theories has been incorporated in a single theory. Continental drift theory, sea floor spreading, magnetic anomaly, geomagnetism, interior of the earth, distribution of earthquakes and volcanoes. So tell the examiner that I do understand why are you asking so regularly this question. Tell about that fundamental rights also when you're writing general studies. The importance of fundamental rights for the evolution of a society. Individual. Ultimately, it is the individual which collectively make a nation. So that's where you have to think about, like defining fundamental rights. Will not be give you edge, because everybody can define that. Let's say if you're writing question about Article 15. So defining Article 15 is one of the most important fundamental rights, not going to give you edge. But talk about, the Article 15 talks about the gender parity, which is so vital in an evolving society like ours. For the women empowerment, for the removal of caste and other basis of discrimination, is so vital for a diverse country like ours. That's the beginning. That's the difference you are creating between a college-going writer and a would-be IAS officer. Right? So introductory line should be including basically as a crux that importance of the topic. Now, what do we mean by importance of the topic? So importance with respect to the subject. Why this topic is so important that they are being regularly asked. Like let's say 2 topics in geomorphology finished. That's where I tell always, that's where a would-be IAS officer should study. Only 2 topics, plate tectonic and cycle of erosion. And you see the number of questions asked from these 2 areas. You will understand that what is the trend in UPSC. If you read plate tectonics, you have understood at least 5-6 topics. Interior of the earth, earthquake, volcanism, continental drift theory, sea floor spreading. So 6 topics are finished. Distribution of continents and oceans, finished. Mountain building, finished. 8 topics are integral part of plate tectonic theory. If you read cycle of erosion, now that's where you have to correlate. Cycle of erosion is what? Like cycle means where you have started, you're completing that. The cycle, erosion. We all know denudation. Now, an uplifted mass of land has started like this, a flat surface, maybe a depressed valleys. Ultimately getting transformed into a big mountain. And then those big mountains will be transformed into a plateau. The cycle of erosion. Chota Nagpur plateau must be much, much higher. Let's say 100 million years or 200 million years before. Aravalli must be much, much bigger mountain in the past. Like since Caledonian period, erosion is being experienced over Aravallis. Now it has come down to a hill, a small hill. That too dissected at several places. It's no more giving an appearance of a big mountain. But in the past, it must be a very big mountain. Now look at here, denudation chronology. Ultimately, river, winds, and various erosion legends would have worked over it to reduce it to this level. So, denudation chronology, channel morphology, how rivers develop, drainage system, drainage pattern, everything an integral part of cycle of erosion. Slope analysis. What is slope? Ultimately, slope is a dynamic term, right? Earlier, it might be Himalaya is right now this way, so it will go this way, and ultimately might be brought down a flat plate. Right? How it is evolution, slope evolution. This is this. A very steep slope area will be transformed into roughly a flat plain area. How the evolution of slope will take place? Slope evolution theories. Right? Somebody says parallel retreat. Somebody says decline. Right? So if you imagine that now, everybody will write that. Let's say seeking slope evolution. Everybody will write that. Now you tell the importance of the study of the slope. Look at slope is the most important physical aspect which affects human activity. What kind of houses you will build dependent upon slope. What kind of drainage system will be there dependent upon slope. What kind of economic activities will be there dependent upon slope. If any area has having more than 5 degrees slope, it will not be suitable for agricultural activities. Look at here, the amount of effect slope is influencing. which very often will miss, because we are preparing for geography as a subject, not geography as a would-be IAS officer. How the geography subject should be seen by would-be IAS officer is different than how geography should be seen as a subject by college-going students, or let's say research scholars or academicians. That's where we have to be different. So what is the importance of the topic with respect to subject and with respect to humans? That's where comes the role of why. Why should we study? Now, subject as well as humans, both are vital while writing the topic in optional, while introducing a topic in optional subject. But only humans, relatively more dominantly about humans in GS. Here we have to, that's why, how, whatever you want to say it. Why should we study it? How it has played a crucial role in helping humans, because ultimate aim of every topic is to learn with respect to humans, remember it. Let's see, like for example, you don't very often see, rarely you will see galactic movement being mentioned in the book. If it is about earth movement, only two types of movement will be shown. Most of the books, almost all the books, that's rotation and revolution, not galactic movement. Galactic movement plays a very crucial role in determining the earth biodiversity, earth human centric biotic activities, temperature regime, global warming, global cooling, plays a very crucial role. But the problem is that we don't have any information or authenticity of the fact that how the galactic movement affects the earth system. Galactic movement, I hope we all know. Earth as a member of solar system, when it revolves around the center of galaxy. Sun revolves around the center of its own galaxy. With revolution of sun, Earth as a member of the planet, the member of the solar system is also revolving around the center of the galaxy. That's called galactic movement. Now the period of one complete revolution is 250 million years. Now we don't have any information, because 250 million is at least we need to have one circle complete and study different positions. Only then we can say that at this position Earth may experience this much stars, and so many stars will be influencing it, and the lights and all will be affecting it. There might be a black hole on the way. There might be more black holes on the way, which might affect the whole system of the Earth, functioning of the Earth. But we don't have any idea about it. So you don't see it mentioning anywhere, because ultimately we are studying things with respect to humans. So that's where you'll have to think as a would-be IAS officer, which is what I say, that going beyond the books. And that's the fundamental requirement. Now, we can have several examples. Let's say subject, plate tectonic theory. So mention about that, how plate tectonic theory has revolutionized the concept in geomorphology. You just imagine that if plate tectonics theory are not there, then what we would have missed. So a scientific explanation of the distribution of earthquake, volcanoes, formation of fold mountains, right? Distribution of continents, ocean. So mention that. That plate tectonic theory is one of the most important, in fact, heart and soul of geomorphology, which enables it learning this. Right? Then with respect to humans, tell about that how it has, like for example, plate tectonic theory has basically not only have told you about these physical aspects, but also the biotic community. Like when continental drift theory, Wegener was surprised to see the coal beds in an area where you don't expect the present climatic conditions suitable for coal formation. So plate tectonic theory has the answer. Like in our country, the rifting took place, and you have, in that rifting areas, you have coal beds. Now in the present conditions, that area is not suitable for the formation of that luxuriant vegetation which can submerge and form coal. That means in the past it must be somewhere else. So this distribution of forests and vegetation, biotic community, because different climatic conditions produce different types of community. So you can mention that. Not only that, the distribution or presence of different era biotic community is available and explained with the help of plate tectonic theory. In Kanyakumari region, archaeologists suggest that there are a large variety of fossils found, which is produced in different climatic conditions. So in one region, you have the fossils of different climatic conditions. So that's where the relative theory is also explained. This mystery can be easily explained with plate tectonic theory, that once it was near the equator, so biotic community would represent equatorial climate. So explain that. Try to elaborate it. And that's where your administrative capability is reflected. Let's say suppose if you're writing about earthquake. Now, how study of earthquake has helped the subject grow? Interior of the earth, right? Which is so vital for understanding the reflection of the endogenetic forces on the earth's surface. And then, if learning about earthquake, we have reduced the negative impact. Like, start with earthquake is a disaster. Rather than passage of vibration through the earth crust is called earthquake. Start with earthquake is a disaster faced by humanity. And an understanding of earthquake has not only enabled us to reveal the interior of the earth, but also to reduce its impact, negative impact on human beings. Why do we make earthquake-proof houses in the earthquake-prone area? To reduce the negative impact. How could we know? Learning the earthquake till that. Right? So that's where everywhere you should try to reflect this feeling. That in the introductory line, the importance of the subject must be highlighted in a very crisp, very short manner. And there you have the role of quality writing, wherein, let's say, 15 words, you say volume of information. Like when we say earthquake is a disaster. So earthquake is a disaster, 4 words, you have spoken a lot of information about it. Indirectly, you are saying that it's so very important to study with respect to human beings. Right? Enabled us in learning of the interior and reducing the or mitigating the negative impact with respect to humans. Disaster management pe agar hum baat kare. So obviously disaster management is an integral part of the evolution of a society. If you can't manage disaster, let's say after 2005, when we have Disaster Management Act, the things are much, much better and compared to managing. Like you can give example of Phylin. Phylin was category 4 cyclone, which used to be so disastrous in the past. But in the present, we have mitigated and reduced the minimum damage. So when you talk about cyclones, talk about it. Prediction of cyclones. How is it possible? Because we have learned that. We have understood the formation of depression and then vortex and then ultimate stage of a low pressure area is a cyclone. So you can easily visualize it, foresee it and forecast it. You can evacuate the people. You can take required measures. Talk about that. Cyclone is also a disaster. Right? Look at how you can correlate with the socioeconomic aspect also. A disaster-prone region is always vulnerable for poverty. Is vulnerable for very you can say that short-sighted mindset of the society. Very traditional. Believers in supernatural power, lots of superstitions and all. Bhagwan, Bhagwan, please, इस बार cyclone से बचा लेना, Allah, 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 please, इस बार cyclone से बचा लेना. Because you don't have control over it. So disaster-prone area, the attitude foundation of the society will be very regressive, very inward-looking. Now you look at here, one aspect, and you are revealing how much information, and you are telling the examiner that, look, I have the capacity to use information. I have the capacity to make decision based on information, which will not be there in the book. Remember, they are not looking for bookish worm. Remember, they are not looking for knowledgeable people. Remember, they are not telling you to have optional selection from your background. They are least bothered about it. That means they are least bothered about the information you possess. What they are bothered about it, if you are given informations, how effective you will be in decision-making process. And that's where you can tell. That looks at the moment they see your introduction. Like, for example, the way I check my copy, the copy of the students, I just look at those areas. And if we are going to work upon, we'll work upon that areas far, far better, because content-wise will always be good. Discuss the consequences of the earthquake. Everybody knows the consequences of the earthquake. Right? Discuss the various aspects of how plate tectonic theory is, let's say, as an improvement over continental drift theory, and how mountain buildings have actually been properly or plausibly explained by the theory of plate tectonics. You know that content. Convergent boundary, divergent boundary, conservative boundary, which boundary is far more important with respect to explanation of the mountains. You can explain that. So everybody will have that information. So generating content, developing it, mugging it or cramming it is not a big idea, because they will not be searching, they will not be impressed by that. Body parts will have hardly 5 to 10% of marks variation between the students. And I have seen best of the best students, I am telling you, who I think possess far more knowledge than required, yet they are ending up with 220, 220, 25, 30, they don't cross that. And those students who have that ability to use information, they have crossed that 300. So to fetch highest marks, you need to be very good at, like if you want to cross that, you need to be good at, let's say, cross 325, reaching 350. That will be determined by introduction and conclusion. Body parts. In the body parts, we just play with the words. That's where you need to be relevant. That's what your relevancy. Let's say consequences to one term, earthquake, second term. Just play with the word. Consequences of earthquake, consequences of earthquake. So you keep on writing about the consequences of earthquake. Right? Interdependence. There is some topics, some way it is written that the topics are interdependent. So you play with the two keywords. Very often you will have two or the most three keywords. So remember that three keywords is starting from your introductory lines till the end. Always that three keywords should be in your mind. You should never let it go off, so that relevancy is continuous and coherence will be maintained. So not much deal about it. Then conclusion part. This again a very important part, reflecting your ability to comprehend the things or conclude things. What should be the conclusion? It's always about future. In a nutshell, how do you see the topic? How or where do you want to see the topic in the future? Right. Now a counter of introduction here. Importance of subject with respect to humans. Now start with the impact of humans over the topic. Very often it will be negative. Or if not, just search out the negative impact. Let's say earthquake. What is the negative impact of human over the topic? Sorry? Good. Go ahead. We are helpless to do that, because with the increasing population, reducing land amount, land use change, we are bound to be settled in the disaster prone areas. That's the point. Not only man-made like reservoir-induced seismicity, but also with the intensive activities in different parts of the vulnerable area, the vulnerability of the area has been further accelerated. That ways we can say that. And then the moment you have told about the negative impact of humans, now suggest that. Now tell that what has been done. What has been done with respect to that? Again, all has to be in a very short manner, a crisp manner. What has been done? That is measures taken to reduce that negative. And then what needs to be done? This is very important line. That is your suggestion. Right? And at the end, what changes you want to see in the topic. would you like to see? What changes you would like to see in the topic? That's the crux of your structure. Like in the case of earthquake, what would you like to see in the future? Come again, please. Earthquake prone buildings. Okay. What else? Good. Okay. Go beyond. Huh? Land use planning. So that has been happening. I'm expecting that which has not happened yet. And yet you want to see that. Exact prediction. Prediction of timing. Right. That's the catch. Like that's the point which actually will reflect the, oh my God. You can see future. You can predict future. That means when you are taking actions, that's there in your mind. As an administrator, as a DM, if you're going to, let's say, suppose you are the DM of a tribal areas, and you know that you will be here, so let's say, so for example, 2 years, right? If you want to improve the education system, you know deep inside that you can't actually transform anything visibly on the surface. If you work hard, because you have other areas to work also, yet you have one area of education. You know that despite your efforts, not many students are going to come up to the school. Yet, you should not leave that area. Keep on struggling. You know that this time, as a DM, you might not be successful visibly. That's good number of enrollments are done. But your convincing capability, your work in that area may make far easier for the next DM to actually bring the numbers. So you lead the foundation stone despite the fact that you know that you will not be rewarded, you will not be actually praised because there is no visible impact of your efforts. Yet, you keep in the mind that fine, I have laid the foundation. At least I have been successful in convincing them that how education is important. Forget about their sending their children or not. Right? But you know that second or third or fourth DM will definitely see some students coming up to the schools and colleges. That's where you can see your action and your future. The consequence of the same in the future. Let's say about women empowerment. There are several areas in our country where women are very less empowered. There is no role whatsoever in the decision-making process, starting with the family itself. Yet, you are supposed to work with them. Right? With the hope that in the future the things will be better. Here, always remember one thing. You should never ever end with a negative note. Always end with a positive note. Howsoever pathetic topic you have started, one thing must be ensured that you see the topic very good in the future. That is one of the biggest quality of a leader. Right? Ending with a positive note, that means you are optimistic, hopeful. And that's the truth also. You start any topic, any pathetic condition. If you are writing, I can prove that in the future is going to be great. Any chaos situation will always bring challenges. And together with the challenges, you always have opportunities also. A very good example of the present day rough chaos in our country. We can see that the way we are dealing with, we are not like that. Right? Let's say like lynching is an issue. Now, in a country like ours, people are lynched. So that's very bad. But I can see a great aspect in that, and you can see a great future of India. Because that has forced us to start a debate. That has forced every one of us to introspect. Right? It has forced the Muslims what went wrong. That so many quality brothers of yours you have been living with ages. Like they're not foreigners basically, in the sense like they're not Afghanis. They're not Turkish. Those have gone back. They're basically native population who might have converted for some reason or the other. So their faith is different, but their blood flows are the same. We share that. And we have shared that. So they are forced to think. Same is about Hindus. A good quality, well, earlier nobody was so vocal about supportive of Muslim. Nowadays you can see that. There are a large number of people who are so supportive of Muslims. Earlier you were not there. Now the gelling, that's what you call socioeconomic transformation. When any societies pass through that, any society pass through that social transition, there will be shaking. And once you pass that shaking, you will be a far, far maturer society. So every topic, howsoever chaotic it might appear, howsoever pathetic it might appear, it gives you opportunity to start a debate. It gives opportunity especially to the intellectuals to think in a different direction, to think about what went wrong, to think about what corrective measures must be taken to make it better. So that's where every answer should end with a positive note, showing you are not pessimist. You are an optimist, most fundamental quality of a leader. So let's say prediction of the earthquake, timing. If you would have read, the most studied triple junction or the plate boundary is the San Andreas fault. Obviously because we are being closer to the most developed countries who could invest a lot, US, where the NASA scientist is almost very close to the prediction of the timing of the earthquake. So if once we have developed that mechanism, that can be spread to the different parts of the world. Because ultimately earthquake is displacement of rocks from the interior of the earth. And displacement may appear a sudden phenomena for us, but it's not a sudden phenomena. The stress building takes years ultimately to displace that rocks. So if we can somehow find out the first point where actually the cracks are being developed, where actually the hitting has started, and we can predict that this much area has this much density, the compactness of the rocks, and obviously it will take this much time for this to create a jerk. That every movement of plate, that's how plate moves. It will create pressure, 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 and after the elasticity rebound, they'll move 1 inch. And that is the time when you have earthquake. So you can predict that. Okay, this much weight of, let's say, slab, which is moving inside the asthenosphere. This much time it will take. So you can roughly predict that today it is going to happen. If not exactly today, 4:30 p.m. But today it is going to happen. So if we can predict even a week, that this week, let's say, Western Himalaya is going to experience earthquake. So you can have enough amount of time to prepare, for preparation. And we can minimize the damage. So talk about that. What do you want to see changes in, let's say, plate tectonics? So changes in plate tectonics, there are so many areas which are not explained by plate tectonics. Triple junction. So limitations of plate tectonic theory, talk in brief of it, and more research needs to be done for the better improvement and making it the best of the theories without flaw. End it. Right? So that's why where introduction, importance of the topic with respect to human, with respect to the subject. Preferably start with humans, go to subject. Here, the impact of humans over the topic, and then with respect to these 3-4 points. Now, you have to learn these areas, like for example, it is very difficult to actually accommodate all the 4 features in the conclusion with the least amount of word. And that's where you have to learn. That's what you have to learn, that let's say in 15-20 words, almost entire things can be comprehended, can be compressed. And this is the process where, and you learn according to your style of writing. Never imitate anyone. It may take some time, but that will be permanent. Because you can imitate for 1 answer, for 2 answers. It will not be a natural flow for you. Right? So individually we'll definitely work upon especially these areas. Content-wise, you just need to know that. Okay, fine. That's a very common question, addition of. Exactly. That's what I was going to. No, you should not give. Again, look at here. You have to show your smartness to the examiner. Like it should not appear as if patchwork. Now, in today's world, you have patches on the jeans. It looks good. But if there are too many patches, it looks odd, kind of. So that intellectual or smart use of diagrams, when it is self-explanatory, But I won't mind if you have not given away a single diagram in an answer, if it is not required. But just for the sake of putting 3-4 diagrams, if you're putting it, it is regressive. Just it is regressive. Definitely is going to give you a punishment, kind of. Again, it's not a college going exam. Like flow chart. Flow chart is good. Because it is like, if you, let's say suppose in the body parts, especially when you have 150 words, and you have tremendous amount of information for that. So you can make a small flow chart, reflect that, and explain a little bit. Then you have enough amount of space left for conclusion and introduction, where you can be far more creative. So flow chart is always good. But just for the sake of giving diagrams like you are dragging something and all, definitely not suggested. But if it is required, you can always give that. Any question if you have? You see the questions today? You will have that hopefully sweat coming out of your head. That's where the challenge is. You know a little bit thing. And like for example, basket topography. Like basket topography, you see that is a landform produced by glaciers. So hardly 20-30 words you are finished with. Now how can you write that in 150 words, or at least to go closer to 150? You can't finish 30 words answers when it is you are advised to write 150 words. Now think about it. Glacier. The moment you do basket topography is a product of glacial landform. Is a glacial landform. Now what is a glacier? Or the glaciated areas. The glaciated areas are characterized by harsh climatic conditions, a sparse population, very low economic productivity, biodiversity. You write that. But picturesque landform which can be utilized for tourism development. Now you see here you are creative. But always hit the question first. The demand. Like use the term basket topography in the beginning itself. And then you go for it. Then you have written basket topography, explain it, the fluvio-glacial and whatever you know about it. Let's say even 30 words, 40 words. Now come down to the future aspect of global warming, receding of glaciers, its impact on rivers. Right? Glaciers are so vital, cryosphere's albedo rate is very high. So that ways you can reach at least 125, 130, 135 words, which it doesn't appear lopsided. That's where we have to learn. To, let's say, suppose sometimes you will have, let's say, 500 words information on the answer. Again, you have to concise it to 150 words. Sometimes you just have 15, 20 words of the answer. Again, you have to, let's say, cryosphere. So cryosphere is, you can write an essay over it. The moment you understand the term. And you hardly have 15, 20 words. Again, you have to finish it or take it to the level where at least you can be appreciated for the fact that yes, you have come closer out. Right? Time geography, fine. No, better to leave. Because remember, whether the IAS officers are honest or not, examiners would be looking into it. Your honesty is checked through that. They deliberately give you one question or two questions like that, and mostly you will see that those questions will be in compulsory section. So when you are just giving bluffs, not only you will be given 0 marks, but you are creating a negative impression about yourself. Look at here, they are searching, they are checking your personality, not your writing ability. Those students who write very decorative English are never at an advantageous situation. UPSC itself use it. Simple. So like writing, they're not checking your writing ability basically.
through your writing, they are checking your administrative capability. Remember it. That's the fundamental difference here. So when you are giving false information, that's why one thing I always suggest, avoid wrong information. Completely avoid. That's why you always write about. If you want to be figurative, never give the exact figure in one answer, because you might not have the same in the second answer. So even if you have perfect idea about the figure, let's say 5.46, write about roughly slightly above than 5, slightly less than 6, rather than giving the exact figure, because you may not have the same figure in every other areas. So you are exposing yourself that I knew this information, I had the figure for this question, I don't have the figure for this question. So write about that. The same is about when you are writing. Let's say, for example, you will not be punished for the making a guesswork. Let's say pseudo volcanism, right? So if you are writing something which gives an impression to the examiner that yes, he might have or she might have misunderstood the question, you will not be punished for that. Because as an examiner, I can easily understand whether you are writing false information or you have been misguided, misunderstood. So misunderstood can be forgiven. You may not be given marks for that, but can be forgiven. But if I'm sure that you have no idea, yet you are trying to write, not forgiven. Forget about that question. Rest, the impression will be carried for the next answers also. And remember, you can get always very good marks while writing less questions also. I have several students, like I tell you a guy who's called Saket. He attempted just 210 marks and he scored 147. Leaving behind 40 marks, yet he scored 147. Definitely on the higher side. Right? So it's not necessary to attempt all the answers unnecessarily. Remember, it's a competition. And they'll be scaling up. If the questions are like that, let's say suppose some question is, some subject is just like 20 marks answers and nobody would have written. There'll be a scale up of that subject. And at the scale up, you will always go higher. Fine? All the best. Thank you and take care.